Self-ownership ain't just a concept, it's a whole transformation. It's the moment you look in the mirror and stop waiting on anybody to come rewrite your story, save your day, or make you feel seen. It's when you realize everything you're searching for is already inside you, but it's been buried under noise, opinions, expectations, and the weight of people who never understood your vision. Self-ownership is when you reclaim all that energy back. It's when you stop living on borrowed confidence, borrowed validation, borrowed direction. It's when you decide, this life, I'm driving it, nobody else. But it's not loud, it's not performative. It starts in silence. It starts in the moments nobody sees. Late nights where you face the truth you've been avoiding. Early mornings where you choose discipline over comfort. Tough decisions where you walk away from people you love because they don't love you in a way that helps you grow. That's where self-ownership is forged, not in easy seasons, but in the ones that force you to level up or stay stuck. See, people love to talk about independence, but they don't talk about the responsibility that comes with it. Because when you own yourself fully, nobody is left to blame. Nobody is left to point at. Nobody is left to rescue you when you fall. Your wins, they're yours. Your loss is yours too. It's a heavy truth, but it's a freeing one. Because once you swallow it, nobody can control you anymore. They can't guilt you, can't manipulate you, can't use your insecurities as leverage. You become too grounded, too centered, too aware. Self-ownership means you know what you bring to the table, and you're no longer begging to sit at tables that insult your worth. You stop forcing spaces, forcing relationships, forcing conversations that drain you. You stop shrinking to make people comfortable. You stop letting fear dictate your decisions. You stop apologizing for the way you grow, the way you shine, the way you choose yourself. It's a shift that happens internally first. You start valuing solitude differently. You start enjoying peace more than entertainment. You start listening to your intuition, the voice you kept ignoring because you didn't trust yourself yet. And when that trust builds, when you start believing your own judgment, your own timing, your own path, that's when your whole life rearranges. Opportunities line up, clarity sets in, doors open that never opened before because now you're aligned with who you're supposed to be, not who you thought you had to be for others. Self-ownership also means you take control of your narrative. People will always have something to say. They always do. They'll call you selfish when you set boundaries, arrogant when you develop confidence, cold when you stop tolerating disrespect, change when you start healing. But that's noise. That's the price of choosing yourself in a world that benefits from you being lost, insecure, dependent, and confused. When you own yourself, you stop renting your happiness to anybody. You stop letting people's moods decide your day. You stop letting situations you can't control define your identity. And the truth is, self-ownership is lonely sometimes. Not because you're isolating, but because you're separating from the old version of you, the version that needed acceptance, the version that chased validation, the version that didn't know its own power. Growth always feels like separation at first, but the life that comes after, it's solid, it's rooted, it's intentional. When you take ownership of who you are, you stop negotiating your value, you stop lowering your standards just to be chosen. You stop living as if you owe the world pieces of yourself. You walk with purpose, even if the path is slow. You move with clarity, even if the destination isn't obvious yet. You become the author, not the character, the driver, not the passenger. Self-ownership is freedom, not the kind you talk about, the kind you feel, the kind that shows up in the way you speak, the way you move, the way you choose peace over chaos, vision over validation, purpose over pressure. It's the moment you realize your life is yours and you're finally ready to live it with intention, discipline, and courage. That's when everything changes. That's when you become unstoppable. Discipline and purpose, that's the backbone of anybody who wants to build something real. That's the quiet engine behind every transformation, every comeback, every elevation. People look at success like it's luck, timing, or some favor someone handed you. But the truth is simple. Discipline is the currency you trade for the life you want. And purpose is the compass that tells you where you're going. Without those two, you can have talent, dreams, ambition, but you're just spinning in circles, burning energy with no direction. Discipline ain't glamorous. It's not the highlight reel. It's not the part people clap for. It's the part nobody sees. The early mornings when your body don't want to move, the late nights when your mind wants to quit, the sacrifices that isolate you from everything familiar. Discipline is saying no to distractions that feel good in the moment but cost you in the long run. It's choosing your growth over comfort, your goals over temporary feelings, your mission over instant gratification. It's uncomfortable, but it's necessary. It builds a certain toughness in you. Not loud toughness, but internal strength, the kind that makes you unshakable. And purpose is the fire inside. It's the reason you get up, the reason you push through, the reason you don't fold when life hits you with pressure. When you find your purpose, you stop living by accident. You stop waking up confused, lost, directionless. You start aligning everything, your actions, your habits, your circle, with the mission you're trying to accomplish. Purpose makes you intentional. It makes you focus. It makes you move differently, speak differently, choose differently. But purpose without discipline is wasted potential. And discipline without purpose feels like punishment. You need both working together. One gives you the vision, the other gives you the execution. One speaks to your heart, the other speaks to your habits. When they lock in together, that's when you tap into a different version of yourself, the version most people never meet because they never stay consistent long enough to find it. People don't realize that discipline is a love language to your future self. Every choice you make to study, to work, to grind, to cut off distractions, to stay focused, that's you investing in the person you're becoming. It's planting seeds in silence so you can harvest in seasons you haven't even reached yet. It's understanding that progress don't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like boredom, repetition, routine, but that's where the breakthrough is. In the moments you show up, even when it don't feel exciting anymore. And purpose grows over time. It shifts, it evolves, it expands as you expand. What fuels you at 20 might not fuel you at 30. What you thought was your calling might just be preparation for something bigger. When you walk in purpose, you start recognizing doors that were always there. You just didn't have the clarity to see them. You start attracting opportunities that match your mindset. You start meeting people who speak to your vision instead of your fears. A lot of people avoid discipline because they want results without commitment. They want the reward without the grind. They want the title without the work. But discipline is the great separator. It's what divides dreamers from doers, talkers from builders, wishers from winners. And purpose is what keeps you grounded through all of it. It's what stops you from quitting halfway. It's what reminds you that everything you're doing has meaning even when the process feels heavy. Discipline trains your mind. Purpose trains your soul. And when both align, your life becomes unstoppable. You stop getting distracted by people who don't understand your path. You stop explaining your moves to people who ain't moving. You stop shrinking to fit into environments that don't support your elevation. You operate with a level of confidence that don't come from hype. It comes from consistency. It comes from knowing you put in the work day after day, even when nobody was watching. So you keep going, you stay solid, you stay rooted, you stay aligned, because discipline and purpose are the keys to everything you're trying to build. They turn potential into progress, dreams into reality, effort into legacy. And once you lock into that mindset, there's nothing that can pull you off your path. You're not just living, you're becoming, and that's the real victory. Strength and independence, that's something most people never fully understand. People think independence is just being alone, paying your own bills, or making your own decisions. Nah, it's deeper than that. Independence is a mindset. It's a discipline. It's a way of life that forces you to confront yourself every day and say, I don't need permission to live, to grow, to elevate. It's about building a foundation so solid that nobody can shake it, no matter how loud the noise gets outside. Strength and independence is walking through the world on your own terms. And in that walk, you discover power that ain't dependent on anybody else. See, independence is tested in the everyday moments, in the silence of your own room, in the empty seats at the table, in the times when you got no crowd, no applause, no support. That's when you find out what you're really made of. Strength and independence comes from showing up for yourself when nobody else does, from being your own anchor in storms that could easily sink a weaker spirit. It's choosing to face your struggles head on instead of looking for someone to carry the weight for you. That's where real power is born, in the moments where no one is watching, when it's just you and your will, your patience, and your commitment to yourself. A lot of people fear independence because it demands accountability. It demands that you own your life completely without excuses, without blaming circumstances or other people. That's uncomfortable for most because it means you can't pass the buck. If you fail, it's on you. If you win, it's on you. But that's also liberating because once you accept that, you realize nobody else holds your fate. Nobody else has control over your growth, your money, your peace, your happiness. That realization is heavy, but it's powerful. It's a weight that turns into wings when you embrace it. Independence also teaches resilience. When you rely on yourself, you become sharper. You learn to navigate obstacles with clarity because you don't have anyone to lean on or blame. You learn patience because you know progress isn't instantaneous. You learn discipline because the consequences of your actions fall squarely on your shoulders. And in that process, you cultivate a strength that relationships, validations, and external influences can never teach. You learn to trust yourself, your judgment, your instincts, your timing, and that trust becomes unshakable. It's a quiet confidence that shows in your presence, your choices, and your refusal to settle for less than you know you deserve. Strength and independence isn't just about surviving, it's about thriving. It's about creating a life that's yours, not borrowed from someone else's dreams or expectations. It's about building wealth, knowledge, and influence without waiting for someone to hand it to you. It's about understanding that your value doesn't come from a partner, a friend, or a crowd. It comes from the work you put in, the character you build, the legacy you leave. Every challenge you face alone, every decision you make without guidance, every moment you stand firm, that's adding layers to your strength. And here's the beauty of it. When you are independent, when your strength doesn't depend on others, you attract the right people naturally. You don't chase attention. You don't compromise your standards. You don't bend for validation. You operate from a place of abundance, not scarcity. You create a life where connections are chosen, not needed. That's power most people never tap into because they're still seeking confirmation outside themselves. Strength and independence also gives clarity. It cuts through confusion. It separates what's essential from what's trivial. It shows you who genuinely respects your space and who is just filling time. It teaches patience, endurance, and self-respect. You stop tolerating toxicity because you can survive without it. You stop compromising your peace because you know peace is earned, not borrowed. And in that process, you become a force, someone who commands attention, not by seeking it, but by embodying it. When you embrace independence fully, it's not just about being alone. It's about being unshakable. It's about walking through life with confidence that your foundation is yours alone, built on self-reliance, discipline, and vision. It's about understanding that true strength doesn't come from dependence. It comes from owning your life, owning your choices, owning your destiny. And once you step into that, you realize the world doesn't intimidate you, the noise doesn't distract you, and the challenges don't define you. You define yourself. You set the standard. You build the legacy. That's strength and independence. Boundaries and standards. Most people don't understand how powerful they really are. People confuse them with ego or arrogance, but that's a misunderstanding. Boundaries and standards are your blueprint for self-respect. They're the invisible lines that say, this is who I am, this is what I accept, and this is what I refuse to tolerate. They're the rules you set for yourself so that your energy, your peace, and your life don't get hijacked by people or circumstances that don't belong in your space. When you live without them, you're constantly negotiating your value, constantly giving pieces of yourself to people who don't even recognize the worth in what you're offering. But when you own them, life starts respecting you differently. Opportunities align differently. People act differently. You operate on a frequency that demands recognition without having to demand it. Setting boundaries isn't easy. It's uncomfortable at first. Because when you start drawing lines, some people are going to push. Some people are going to test you. Some people are going to question why you've changed, why you're standing firm, why you're no longer bending to accommodate their insecurities or agendas. That's the cost of growth. That's the price of protecting your energy. And the truth is, if you don't enforce boundaries, the world will enforce them for you, and often in ways that cost more than you're willing to pay. Boundaries are proactive. They're intentional. They're a declaration that you respect yourself enough to demand the same from others. Standards work the same way. Standards are what guide the quality of everything you accept in life. They're what determine the people you allow close, the jobs you take, the relationships you invest in, and the environments you thrive in. Without standards, you drift. You settle for less than your potential. You allow shortcuts to replace integrity, mediocrity to replace excellence. Standards are what protect your mission. They're what preserve your peace. They're what ensure that when you give your energy, it goes where it will multiply rather than deplete. And here's the truth. Boundaries and standards are inseparable from your self-worth. If you don't value your time, your mind, your energy, you'll let anybody and everybody exploit it. But when you understand your own value, when you set lines that are non-negotiable, the people around you start to see it. You don't have to yell, you don't have to argue, you don't have to prove it. Your life does the talking. The energy you exude, the choices you make, the peace you maintain, all of it signals that you're operating on a level where compromise comes with consequences. Boundaries and standards also teach discipline and patience. When you hold firm, when you don't lower your expectations just to make someone comfortable, you're training yourself to wait for what's worthy. You're training yourself to recognize value in the long game rather than the instant reward. And that's how life changes. That's how you start attracting people and opportunities that match your energy instead of diluting it. Because once you stop settling, once you stop allowing exceptions for the sake of convenience, you start to understand the real power of your choice. You start living intentionally. Most importantly, boundaries and standards protect your peace. Peace is a rare commodity. It's easily stolen by people who don't understand or respect your path. It's easily disrupted by chaos, drama, and unnecessary conflict. Boundaries and standards give you the tools to shield it, to keep it sacred, to operate in a zone where your mind, body, and spirit can thrive. They're not walls to isolate yourself. They're lines to define your space, your energy, your mission, your life, and protect it from interference. And when you embrace boundaries and standards fully, something changes. You stop apologizing for saying no. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop compromising your values for acceptance or comfort. You operate from a place of integrity, from a place of self-awareness, from a place of purpose. You learn that the people who truly matter will respect your rules, and the people who don't weren't meant to be in your space anyway. Boundaries and standards aren't restrictions. They're liberation. They free you to live life on your own terms. They give you the clarity to focus on what really matters. They give you the courage to walk away from what doesn't serve you. They give you the power to create a life that honors your worth and aligns with your vision. And once you lock into that mindset, you realize the world doesn't dictate your value anymore. You do, you set the rules, you command the respect, you live with purpose, and everything else falls in line. That's the strength of boundaries. That's the power of standards. And once you embody both, your life begins to move differently, intentional, elevated, unstoppable. Legacy mindset. Most people never get it. They chase money, fame, attention, or comfort like that's the finish line. But a legacy mindset is a whole different game. It's about playing long term while everybody else is distracted by the short term. It's about building something that outlives you, that speaks for you when you're not in the room, that influences generations you'll never even meet. It's about understanding that your life isn't just about today or this month or this year. It's about the mark you leave, the ripple you create, the energy you put into the world that multiplies long after you're gone. See, legacy isn't built overnight. It's not in flashy moves or quick wins. It's in consistency, in discipline, in the grind that nobody sees. It's in showing up when it's inconvenient, in doing the work when it's lonely, in making choices that might not pay off immediately but compound over time. People confuse a legacy mindset with obsession over outcomes. Nah, it's a commitment to the process, to the growth, to the impact. It's knowing that the small actions you take today are bricks in the foundation of something much bigger than yourself. A legacy mindset changes the way you operate. It makes you think beyond yourself. Your decisions stop being about instant gratification or temporary comfort. They become about contribution, influence, and impact. You start asking yourself, will this decision serve my future self? Will it benefit my family, my community, my people? Will it honor the sacrifices that came before me and pave a better path for those who come after? That's the lens you see life through when you're playing for legacy. It rewires your priorities. It rewires your patience. It rewires your perspective. Most people live in scarcity because they don't think in terms of legacy. They live like life is a sprint, not a marathon. They chase recognition over relevance, attention over influence. But when you adopt a legacy mindset, you stop worrying about temporary validation. You stop seeking approval from people who don't even understand your vision. You start focusing on substance over flash. You start building systems, habits, and structures that last. You start creating wealth, knowledge, and impact that can be passed down, not just consumed and spent in the moment. And legacy mindset demands responsibility. It demands accountability because the more you think long-term, the more you understand that your choices have weight beyond yourself. Every action, every word, every decision is a seed planted into the future. You can't afford recklessness. You can't afford careless energy. You can't afford shortcuts that compromise integrity. A true legacy mindset understands that reputation, influence, and character are not earned overnight, and once lost, they can take generations to restore. So you operate with care, with intention, and with respect for the bigger picture. But it's not just about restraint or patience. Legacy mindset is about vision and courage. It's about seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. It's about believing in a future that hasn't materialized yet and working every day to make that future inevitable. It's about investing in yourself and others, even when the payoff is years away, because you understand the compounding effect of influence, education, wealth, and wisdom. You understand that the seeds you plant today, the mentorship, the guidance, the discipline, the culture you cultivate, are going to grow into forests you may never walk through yourself. Legacy mindset also shifts the way you measure success. It's no longer about numbers on a bank statement or likes on a post. Success becomes about impact, about uplift, about who you empower and how you change the trajectory of lives around you. It's about solving problems bigger than yourself, creating opportunities where there were none, leaving a blueprint for people who come after you. It's about walking a path that others can follow while still carving out space for your own growth and expression. When you embrace a legacy mindset fully, it changes everything. Your energy, your decisions, your habits, your relationships, all start aligning with a higher purpose. You stop wasting time on people or things that don't serve the long game. You stop chasing temporary highs. You start creating permanent impact. And in that process, you become more than just a person living today. You become a force, a blueprint, a standard, a foundation that lasts beyond your lifetime. Legacy mindset is freedom and responsibility intertwined. It's patience, vision, and action. It's knowing your life is bigger than your ego, bigger than your comfort, bigger than the moment. And when you live that way, nothing can shake you, nothing can distract you, and nothing can diminish the power of the life you're building. That's the real victory. That's what it means to play for legacy.